Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how I took these water damaged nightstands and gave them a whole new look by simply adding some paint. Now you may recognize these nightstands from a previous video. I actually got these from a local hotel furniture reseller. I went back to see them, see if they had any new and exciting items to refinish, and then I saw that they still had some of these nightstands on hand, and I thought to myself, why not? I'll take a whack at them again. Unlike the first nightstands I refinished, these had a lot of water damage. I also noticed that one of the nightstands had almost like puppy bites on them. It might have not been a puppy, but it needed a lot of repair. First things first, I disassembled the nightstand and ensured to save all the pieces in a Ziploc bag. And then I gave it a good scrubbing with some soap and water. Because of the extent of the water damage, I started off sanding with 80 grit sandpaper. Then I finished it off with a 120 grit sandpaper to remove any roughness and make sure that the surface was nice and smooth. Once done sanding, I made sure to give the nightstands a good cleaning with just a wet rag to remove any dust residue that it had. I did notice while I was sanding them that there were a couple of places where the veneer was coming off. If you have a heat gun, I would definitely recommend using it to remove the damaged veneer. I didn't have one on hand, so I used a flex scraper to remove the veneer as much as I could without breaking it. Sorry guys, my hair did get in this shot. My bad. Anywho, once I had removed the piece enough, I used some Gorilla Glue, some blue tape, and some furniture clamps just to hold it on. I waited for about 30 minutes for the glue to dry, and then I removed the clamps. Now for the bottom piece that looked like a puppy had chewed it. I definitely needed more than just sanding to repair this, so I used some plastic wood I had on hand. I filled it in and evened it out as much as possible. Once the plastic glue dried, I used a 120 grit sandpaper to sand out any roughness, smooth it out as much as possible so that the repair would look seamless. In order to protect the particle board from any further damage, I applied a layer of bullseye shellac and a clear finish to the entire nightstand. After letting it completely dry, I did lightly sand it with a 220 grit sandpaper and gave them a good wipe down before moving forward. So I wanted to paint them in a dark color. So I had to prep the all-purpose primer by adding some black paint. This will make the painting process way easier, and I will have to do less layers of paint since the primer's already going to be a dark base. Remember how I thought the piece was nice and smooth? Well, I was so wrong. It looks like I oversanded in some areas of the water damage, and then I undersanded in other areas. Now, you can definitely notice when this happens after you apply the first layer of paint. To fix this, I added some wood filler into the areas I had oversanded, allowed it to dry, and then sanded them down again with a 120 grit sandpaper. I also sanded down the areas that needed to be sanded even further so that this time they would actually be nice and smooth. To double and triple make sure that this was smooth, because I didn't want to go through this process again, I gave the entire piece a light sanding with 400 grit sandpaper and cleaned it off before moving forward. Now, because the nightstand is particle board and I didn't want it to give the future owner any issues, I went ahead and I added another layer of shellac where the repairs were made. With that completed, I could start painting. I applied 2 layers of paint to the entire thing. Here, the daylight made the paint look like a light gray color, but at the end, you'll see that it's more of a blue-gray color. Now, I did mix some paint colors I had on hand to create this color, so I can't share the exact color I used, but the closest color I found when I went to Home Depot was bare smoky blue. To seal the piece, I used Varathane, polyurethane, and a satin finish. When sealing a darker colored piece, I always like to add a little bit of paint into the polyurethane to avoid any cloudiness that could potentially happen. For the handles, I wanted to give them a bit of a gold look, so I first cleaned them very well. Then I gave them a really good sanding with 120 grit sandpaper. And finally, I spray painted them with Rust-Oleum metallic champagne color. Finally, it is now time to rebuild and stage for the final pictures. Here it is. We started off with these off-white, water-damaged, puppy-bitten nightstands and ended up with these beautiful smoky blue colored nightstands. Tell me what you guys think. As per usual, I'll add a list of the materials I used for this project in the description below. If you like these and want to see what I did with the other nightstands I made, I'll also add a link to the video in the description below. As usual, please make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. Until next time, here at Angie's Crafts Furniture Renovation.